All right. And now. Okay, we are live and unlisted. So I am going to hit public right now.
Welcome back to The Backmarkers, the F1 podcast for new fans by new fans. I am on location this episode and joined by my home team advisor, Austin Evans.
Hello, Mike. We
back
are,
at the factory.
Yeah, I'm back at the factory.
Back at the factory.
I'm trying to craft a new wing on this side. I'm trying to make sure the OBS doesn't crash on that side. It's all very exciting.
Yeah, so if you watch the video version of this show, it's going to look different because I'm in a hotel room. If you listen to the audio version, it's going to sound different because I'm using my good microphone, not my streaming microphone. So maybe everyone's kind of winning. I don't know. I don't know what our stream looks like right now because Austin's doing it. He could have drawn devil horns on my head or something. I don't know.
You're actually correct. And if you're listening to the audio-only version, what a great time to go and see Mike's expertly crafted Memphis setup where you're going to be here for a little while, right? For all the St. Jude stuff?
I'm here for 10 days as we're halfway through our fundraising campaign for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital because halfway through the month of September, which is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we are putting on the Relay FM podcast-a-thon for St. Jude. So it's an 8-hour variety show where we're going to be joined by a bunch of guests and we're going to be spending time talking about and raising money for St. Jude while at St. Jude's campus. So that's why I'm here. We'll be presenting the show. It's going to be really fun, full of hijinks. It's going to be on Friday, September 16th, so this coming Friday, from 12 to 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. So there's definitely enough time, no matter where you are in the world, to catch at least some of it because 8 hours and all that. I'd really love if you'd come and join us and donate some money to St. Jude. We are still running our campaign, of course. We're rounding $175,000 raised for the kids of St. Jude, which is unbelievable. I want to thank everyone for their support. What we're doing together is helping to defeat childhood cancer. That is St. Jude's entire mission, is to find cures and save children. And who could argue with such an incredible mission that they have? It really is an incredible place. I can't wait to get to St. Jude later on this week, spend time there with all the wonderful people. We're going to be talking to doctors and patients, surviving patients, patient families, which is a big thing that we do every year, as well as including all of our fun hijinks. There's a wheel, there's a balloon room, there's all kinds of stuff. This is going to be the biggest, weirdest, most wild podcast-a-thon that we've done so far. So that's at twitch.tv/relayfm is where you'll be able to find the stream. Please come and check it out, or just go to stjude.org/relay and you'll find out more about how you can donate to the cause and also can find out how you'll be able to join us on Friday.
That's very exciting. I can't wait to see the balloon room. It's going to be, I think, extra spicy this year with some extra special guests, perhaps.
Yeah, we've got it's a very different setup for the balloon room this year, which I'm actually pretty pumped about. Very different.
All right, Mike. We got some serious business to attend to here.
Yeah.
Italian Grand Prix. We just watched a race full of a bunch of very happy tifosi. Ferrari, a dominating 1-2. Max forgot to wake up for the race this morning. It was very exciting.
Did we come from a different universe, me and you? Because
what?
You're in the multiverse. Multiverse of madness over there.
I'm in the multiverse where Ferrari fans are happy, unlike what we actually saw today, where Max ran away with it for his 5th consecutive win. Man, it's like...
I think they said he's actually never been on the podium at Monza before.
Yeah,
so his first podium was a win.
Yeah, I believe he was technically on the podium a couple years ago, but he got a penalty, so it didn't actually count. Just kind of like how Seb was on. I think he was also on the was he on the podium from? No, it wasn't. Was it from Monza? Seb got a podium a little while ago. I know there was a problem there, but regardless, I think it was a really, really exciting sort of race. Mike, would you be so kind as to give us that beautiful finishing order while I tinker? I'm going to basically, we need to take a quick pit stop because certain Austin's got to
You've got some audio to fix?
Maybe, perhaps. Well, it's almost like live streaming and live racing are very similar and very difficult.
Yeah. So you're getting a sense of what I'm going through every week, watching the chat, getting the levels, all that kind of stuff. All right, so this is the finishing order. So in P1, Max Verstappen, followed in P2 by Charles Leclerc. P3 is George Russell. So they're your podium winners. And then we've got P4 Sainz and Hamilton, Perez, Norris, Gasly, Nick De Vries, which we'll get to in a bit, and Zhou Guanyu. rounding out the points finishes for this race, which I would say is top 10. Pretty interesting. We've got some good balance in there. Honestly, P1, P2, P3 of Max, Charles, George, that's kind of setting in now as this is what we can pretty much expect, which is very weird how it's becoming very normal for George Russell to be on the podium now, which is I think even before the season breaks, something we wouldn't have expected. And then you've run it out with Sainz, which is a shame because Sainz had a great race. We could talk about that. Hamilton, who was starting him from 19th because of some engine penalties. There were way more engine penalties again this week, right? And I think they were saying on commentary that this is Monza, because Monza's so fast. It's a good track to take the penalties if you're going to do it and benefit from the engine changes that you might want. But yeah, it was a real mix-up grid again. But I would say, while it was still really mixed up, it wasn't mixed up in, I think, an exciting way when it came to the race itself.
See, I think the way to make it really exciting would have been to make Max start one lap down. Then it would have been really exciting. Other than that, I mean, he was P3 after a lap or something. I mean, I know Lando got a bad start and Max just went, thank you very much. But yeah, it was one of those things where we're quickly hitting sort of flashback zone for me personally to just the absolute dominance of Mercedes the last few years. We're just seeing it again, and almost more so because I feel like Valtteri at least was able to keep Lewis honest for a lot of the last 3-4 years or something. But now it's just Max is just doesn't matter. He can start 14th, he can start 10th, he can start 7th. He's just going to absolutely dominate the race unless something goes horribly wrong. And because they've taken some strategic penalties lately, it probably won't, because now Red Bull and Max have a full suite of shiny new engine and various components in their car to make sure that for the last stretch of the season, they should likely not need to take any more penalties. Obviously, we'll see, but
you never know, right?
Yes.
This is the thing. If all things being safe and good and well for him, sure, but there's also the likelihood that he's going to smash into someone or someone smashes into him, right? But yeah, that if all things go well and they're being strategic, they're doing the best that they can with it, right? This would be their plan, I guess.
So I know we have some silly season follow-up to do, but Mike, I'm curious, what is your opinion? This has sort of been the second race in a row where a massive amount of the grid have received a penalty for one reason or another. I know a lot of people are kind of talking about the penalty system needs to be revamped. And I will say, we watched qualifying yesterday, and I think 2 hours after qualifying, do we have a somewhat decent idea of what the actual starting order was?
Qualifying was kind of pointless. It felt kind of pointless, right? I'll echo what I said after our last race. I've been thinking about it. I've been, reading some of the feedback that we got from backmarkers, listeners, and viewers. And I feel pretty set on my feeling about this is that they should be the penalties should accumulate and should carry over. So if you take enough engine points or placements that it's 25, 30 place drops or whatever, that should carry over to the next race. I don't think that you should get this benefit by taking them all at once, which a lot of teams do, right? Where there's some things put you at the back of the grid, fine, but there seems to be some elements where they're that's a 5-place grid penalty, that's a 7-place grid penalty, and you take enough of them at once that it puts you at the back. But no, I think that should be that is your total, and so you should now you start 20th this week and you have a 10-place grid penalty for next week, because I feel like the strategic taking of penalties doesn't work for me. It feels like a loophole that I would like to see them fix, right? We are in loophole territory with this, right?
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I think if they had potentially even harsher penalties, it might change a lot of the way that the races go. Because if you think about it, every team knows that really with the engines and with the supply of things they've got, it's not enough, right? They cannot realistically get through an entire season without needing to take any additional penalties, right? So say it's not a back of the grid penalty. What if it's a pit lane start or something very aggressive, or you have to take a drive-through penalty throughout the race or something?
Yeah, that would work for me too, right? They're okay, you're going to get a 10-pace grid penalty and a 5-second stop and release. I feel like it needs... I mean, look, this entire race, everyone's only going to be talking about one thing. It's why and how rules should change, right? We'll get to the finish later on. But I think that this is something that needs to be addressed because I just don't think it's. I don't think it's adding up to end up giving us the best racing overall.
Yeah.
Like where there could then be some like a whole different level of like how do you more strategically take penalties to limit your impact on of accumulate. I just think it would be better that way. I feel like the limit on the power units is in place for a reason, and giving teams that are very fast, like Red Bull, the ability to like, because look, I think we've seen now, Max could just have a new power unit every race, right? Because he could come from the back and win it all, and I feel like that in that scenario, it's not really giving the result that they're looking for with the whole penalty system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's one of those things where, yes, there's certainly an argument. They're like, why are drivers being penalized for the teams? But like, the teams are building all these things. If they really wanted to, they could run their power units turned down for the whole year and make them last longer, right? Like, I mean, they're making a conscious decision. And mind you, we saw that the teams, while yes, they're sort of taking strategic penalties here at Monza and at Spa and whatnot, these power-sensitive tracks where every horsepower really counts and you want to have as many fresh components in the pool as possible. But on the flip side, look at the teams, like even though, like half the grid took a penalty, we still had, 3 or 4 engine or sort of various reliability related DNFs in the race, right? So it's like, I don't think the teams are just having a great time, like, oh, whatever, like clearly everyone are pushing very, very hard. But it's like, I don't think it's tenable if we continue to see qualifying sessions where it does not, like, there's no reason to watch because you have absolutely no idea what's actually going to happen. I would not be surprised if probably the short to medium term solution here is the teams just get extra allocation next year. They get an extra engine, a couple of various bits and bobs to kind of help them.
I don't disagree with that. Find the balance, right? Because if you made the penalty system harder, as you say, then it may mean that teams run their engines a little bit calmer. It's like, that's actually, I expect, the intended outcome of the current penalty system, right? It's like, you're supposed to make your engine allocation last pretty much the entire season, barring accidents, right?
Yes. And
so if the outcome is, no, we're just going to put the engine at 110% and we'll wear through an extra 2 of them by the end of the season, I don't think that's achieving the desired outcome of the penalty system as put in place by the FIA. So I think this, and also it just, look, we're going to talk, I think there's a discussion to be had now about what is the desired outcome of races. Is it like, let's have a real sportspersonship sport, right? Where like there's a bunch of rules and we really, or is it entertainment? And I would say that realistically, you got a balance between the two of them. And I'm not saying that let's make Formula One Drive to Survive, but an hour, 2 hours of my day today watching a race, which was pretty good, but then finished and right, and it's just like, I kind of feel like I wasted some time today a little bit because of the way the race finished. And again, we're going to get to that in a bit, but I still think that there's something to be said about, do you want me to watch qualifying? Yes. Qualifying kind of needs to matter.
Yes, absolutely. And especially if you imagine that, they're still trying to push, the sprint races and whatnot. But yeah. I think this is one of those races where, because the on-track action, which was, to be fair, not terrible, right? I mean, the only real advantage to all of this sort of shenanigans is the fact that we do have a mixed-up grid. And, I think we were talking a little about that before the show. Yeah, a mixed-up grid usually means exciting things. Same thing with, like, rain and whatnot. Like, a little bit of extra spice, a little bit of extra jeopardy is always really fun to watch. But it also feels kind of unfair the way things are right now. Now, I know we've got to talk about the finish. We've got to talk about the race. But before we move too deep into the race, there was some very, very significant news that came out right before the race, which is that Porsche has now officially pulled out of their talks to acquire a portion of Red Bull Racing. Now, we've been talking about this all year, really, right? So to kind of set the scene, if you're new to the back markers or new to Formula One, there are currently 10 constructors in the Formula One World Championship. Now, there are, especially with the absolute explosion in popularity with Formula One over the last couple of years, largely due and thanks to series such as Drive to Survive, there's a lot of incentive for teams to become bigger, more profitable, because they really have the cost cap, which is going to help them from burning $500 million a year or whatever to be competitive. And you've got all of these extra eyeballs and whatnot, right? So technically there can be more additional teams added, but every team that has to come in, you have to pay, I think it's like $200 million to the other teams just as a starter, much less however much absolutely obscene numbers you have to spend to build your facilities, blah, blah, blah. It is possible to build a new team from scratch, but incredibly difficult at this point. On the flip side, if you're a constructor, say like Audi, which is already announced, and Porsche, who basically were announcing that they were trying their best, you want to get in, the best way to do it is to purchase or to buy a stake in one of the existing 10 teams. And what we've seen is that Audi has officially announced, and keep in mind that both Porsche and Audi are under the Volkswagen umbrella, so they're kind of like sister companies, but essentially, Porsche was like, hey, we really want to get in here. Audi said the same thing, but the difference is Audi are actually becoming an engine manufacturer, right? So the rumor was that Red Bull and Porsche were going to get together. They were going to share the new Red Bull facilities that they're building from scratch. They're going to be ready for the 2026 regulations, et cetera, et cetera. It all seemed great, and Audi are going to do their own thing by building their own engines and their own sort of facilities, because Audi has essentially wound down a lot of their other racing teams and things to try to make a real effort for Formula One.
Because
so where we're at right now,
excitement and money is, right? If you're going to be in racing right now, it feels like F1's on the rise. So it seems like an interesting thing to be behind.
Absolutely. And this is one of the rare times, if ever, really in Formula One, where a racing team could actually be profitable. So that's what's kind of crazy about Formula One. You look at the hundreds of millions of dollars that are made and everything, but almost none of the teams actually make money, right? Like Ferrari, I mean, what's the saying? Like every time you buy a Ferrari, you're giving $100,000 donation to the Formula One team. Like it's marketing, right? I mean, like that's the real value. Mercedes aren't in Formula One to develop some fancy new AMG car for the road. I mean, yes, there's some small benefits to testing things like, dual clutch transmissions and all these things that eventually make their way into road cars. But the advantage to teams, really generally speaking, is in promotion, whether you're a road car manufacturer or whether you're an independent team like Williams, who are one of the only teams who've been able to sort of really stick it out, or McLaren, who started as a race team and they became so popular. Like, you know what? Let's make some road cars. So,
or if you're an energy drink manufacturer.
Yes, that was a little bit of an odd one out, but
but it's still marketing though. It's the same. Like this is whole Red Bull. So much of Red Bull, the company's marketing, is in extreme sports. So,
yeah. So it's like one of those things where Audi, they have a clear line on this, right? So they're working on their engine facilities. They're going to be being an engine manufacturer, and it is heavily rumored that they are going to purchase Alfa Romeo, or at least the team that runs Alfa Romeo, very shortly. Blah blah blah. Right? It's Sauber, exactly. But the problem is Porsche might be out of luck here, right? So they have clearly invested a ton of time into trying to purchase. Some of the leaked sort of filings said that they're trying to buy 50% of Red Bull Racing. Mike, I just want to let's just maybe take a second here. How much do you think 50% of Red Bull Racing would cost? That has got to be an obscene number right now.
Would it push $1 billion?
I would not be surprised.
It's in the hundreds of millions. Like I can't work it out. Genuinely, I can't work it out.
Hundreds of millions for sure. I would not be surprised if Red Bull Racing valued their entire team at over $1 billion. Like considering how
much is the cost cap?
145, 160 million, something like that. But obviously,
if that's their costs, right?
Per
year.
year.
You know what I mean? Right? So like if that's the yearly cost, $140 million and then 135 from next year onwards. I mean, it's got to be 5-10 times that number, surely, right?
Just because that's like what they're spending per year, right? But that's not counting the last 15 years of building facilities and hiring like Adrian Newey and all these kind of things, right? So a staggering amount of money. But, and I think the speculation where I think it's very interesting because, Red Bull, they kind of shut it down because, I assume that the existing Red Bull crew did not want to give up their power. And it does seem like there's a lot of rumors sort of saying that, hey, basically everyone who runs Red Bull Racing is like, I don't want to have to deal with Porsche. We don't need them. We've built all these facilities ourselves, so whatever. But what it also seems like is that there's not really a backup plan for Porsche. Really, the only backup plan might be to purchase Williams, which I'm sure is for sale. They're owned by Doralton Capital, which is literally purchase the team as an investment for a bargain price. You know that if Porsche comes up and makes a serious offer, that team is going to instantly be theirs, right? Like, there's no question.
Yeah, but I don't see it.
It's a big ask, man.
Well, you Williams... go from wanting to buy the top of the grid to the bottom of the grid. That's like Williams, I think part of Porsche is like, well, we can go in together and we can make this engine thing work and there's money there. Well, Williams don't have any of that. None of that, right? Honestly, I could imagine maybe like Volkswagen Group changes plan a little bit. Maybe they put Porsche, Audi. Maybe they do something interesting there. I don't know, but I can't see what they would do otherwise.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Porsche could do, a few things. They could just buy Williams and just do their own thing and pour their giant pile of money they were going to spend on Red Bull into making that team more competitive. But that's going to be a long, hard slog. You're right. Volkswagen, Daddy Volkswagen could come in and make the children play well together and work together. And it's the Volkswagen Audi team or something like that. Or sorry, the Porsche Audi team, which would be interesting. But it does seem like there's real differences. I mean, if the Red Bull deal would have gone through, they would have been proper competitors, even building their own engines, right? Which is crazy to think about that, two sister sort of companies are like that. I honestly think that Red Bull might just bail, right? Like, I know that they're really invested in this, but you think about
they basically have, right? They said, Porsche's like, no, it's done. I think Red Bull's just like, we're on our own, and Porsche, probably nothing for now.
Yeah. I definitely think the Porsche Red Bull thing is done, but I almost think Porsche might just bail on F1 entirely, right?
Sorry, you said Red Bull, so I got confused.
Oh, yeah.
So Red Bull's done now. Max, you're on your own. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there does not seem to be a logical path for Porsche unless they want to buy out a team that doesn't want to sell.
McLaren, perhaps?
This is what I was thinking, but McLaren, they're not going to want to sell the entire team. Right? Because for Porsche, you're not going to get Porsche and McLaren, right? That's not going to work. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think. I can't see how that makes sense. That seems weird to me. So then they would have to go in and buy the entire team, I feel like. Like Porsche Red Bull, that's a partnership from a branding perspective that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Porsche and another car company, that doesn't make logical sense to me, at least.
It would be far more difficult to wrap your head around. I mean, maybe if we were a couple years ago when McLaren were in fairly serious financial difficulties. And again, I mean, I do believe that Porsche, if they're talking about the giant piles of cash that they are going to throw at Red Bull, they could make some crazy things happen, right? So I don't think we should discount the fact that some insane announcement could come. But as of right now, I would lean toward Porsche potentially not being part of Formula One. And that leaves Andretti, who have very publicly said that they want to get involved in Formula One, kind of on their own. Wouldn't it be wild if Andretti and Porsche come together to join F1 and just build an entirely new team from scratch? That would be something I would love to see that would never happen.
I would say within the next 5 to 10 years, we'll have another team in the sport. Because
you think so?
I think there's just going to be more and more companies that are going to want a slice of this. Yeah. And 10 teams isn't enough. We're seeing it, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, and there's one other sort of wild card in here, which is Honda. Because while Honda just pulled out of Formula One, they have basically, and it seemed very clear that the actual racing part of Honda has wanted to get in from the second they had to get out, right? I mean, they're still supporting Red Bull, even though it's called, the Red Bull powertrain, whatever. I mean, it's the Honda engine from last year, right? Like, they're not really doing anything all that different, and Honda are still helping to support them. So Honda's F1 facilities are still up and running. So the other sort of rumor is that, Honda might want to get back in, potentially with their own works team. So while right now it seems like it's probably just going to be Alfa Romeo turning into Audi for 2026 and all the other teams staying the same, you never know. If Porsche want to throw their money around, if Honda want to have a sniff around at things, it could get spicy, Mike. We could be in teams for silly season, the team edition. Or at least I
would love that. Add Honda racing, Porsche racing. Come on, let's go, baby. Let's go, baby. All right. I'm getting a bit of dag here.
Uh-oh. Mike, is it time? Do I need to tune the OBS and adjust our flaps to make sure that we're fully ready for the next stint?
Adjust the audio. I'm ready to go, baby.
I'm going to keep my hands off those knobs for now.
Okay, that's a good idea. All right, you
All right.
got your timing ready?
Got the
We're
timing
double stacking
ready?
today.
Oh, okay. Get that sort of a little pre-refreshment sort of drink in.
Taking
Everyone
off
get a
my
nice
blanket.
stretch. All right, ready and go.
This episode of The Backmarkers is brought to you by Mint Mobile. After years of fine print contracts and paying too much of big wireless providers, it's no wonder that we're skeptical realistically about new deals. You're like, come on, what's catches here? So when you learn Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month, you got to raise your eyebrows. What's this all about? But once you learn about them and their service, it makes sense. There isn't a catch. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. By cutting out retail stores, they can pass those sweet savings directly to you. For people looking for extra savings, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for just $15 a month. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. What's great is you can use your own phone of any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. So, it's as easy as switching to Mint Mobile and getting premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. One of the great things here, it's incredibly easy once you get your SIM to get yourself up and running. You do it all online. You don't have to go to a store, sit on the phone for hours. It's incredibly fast, incredibly easy, and you're ready to go. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/backmarkers. That's mintmobile.com/backmarkers. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/backmarkers. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of this show and Relay FM. Time.
Woo! Right, that was a 132.2, the second fastest Mint read of all time. Congratulations, sir.
0.2, you said?
132.29.
That's good, because I felt like I had a bit of trouble with the back left at one point.
No, you know what? The wheel gun, fully actuated. The Jackman didn't forget to take a nap. You're in good shape. We ready for the double stack now?
Yep. You ready?
All right. Ready, set, and begin.
This episode of The Backmarkers is brought to you by Trade Coffee. Every day is precious, and we should make the most of all of them. They shouldn't start with mediocre grocery store coffee. You deserve to start your day with the best coffee you can make at home from Trade Coffee. Trade Coffee is a coffee subscription service unlike anything you've tried before. They partner with top independent roasters to freshly roast and send the best coffees in the country directly to your home on your preferred schedule. Your trade experience can be as simple or sophisticated as you want. If you know what you're looking for already, you're very easy to just select from their curated collections from roasts, flavor profiles, brewing methods, or more. Their team of experts do all the work for you, taste testing hundreds of coffees from across the US every month to curate over 450 exceptional coffees that make the cut. Or if you want to have something curated for you, then take a minute and complete Trade's Coffee Questionnaire. You'll be expertly matched with your perfect coffee, and a fresh bag of beans will be on its way to you. The coffee that I get from Trade is so good. I cannot believe how much I love what they picked for me and just how easy it was for them to find exactly what I wanted based on their questions. Their team worked with me to create my own custom collection, which is great because I'm incredibly picky about my coffee. Now you can enjoy what I enjoy about Trade. They have come with a really great collection of beautiful stuff that matches my flavor profiles that I enjoy every morning. There's some really tasty stuff in there. I want you to go experience it for yourself. If you, like me, want your coffee to taste just right and a little bit better every day, go and check out my collection at Trade. But if what I got isn't up your alley, don't worry. Trade will have whatever it is you're looking for. You can shop their most popular coffees by roast or flavor profile, or you can take their coffee quiz and get expertly matched with coffees you'll love. Trade is the easiest way to get your very best tasting coffee delivered fresh just when you need it. And you got nothing to lose because Trade guarantees you're going to love every bag. And if not, they're going to work with you to place it for free. They're going to absolutely make sure that your first bag is perfect. If not, they're going to work with you to replace it. So, if you want to support small businesses and brew the best cup of coffee you've ever made at home, it's time to try Trade Coffee. Right now, Trade is offering our listeners a total of $30 off your first order, free shipping at drinktrade.com/backmarkers. That's drinktrade.com/backmarkers for $30 off your subscription to the best coffees in the country. Our thanks to Trade Coffee for their support of this show and Relay FM.
Time, 224.66.
That was slow today.
Mike, I'm not sure. Did you have a problem? Did you have to refuel on the stop, maybe with a little bit of trade coffee to make sure you were ready for the final stint of the race?
I'm gonna have to work on that one.
Makes sense. All right, let's limber up. Let's actually talk about this race, Mike, because it was an interesting race. I don't know how I would rank it in the best races of the year because it wasn't super exciting, but
I didn't enjoy it today. I didn't enjoy it.
Really?
Honest.
Was it that bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping for more from the mixed up grid.
Yes,
right?
I agree with that.
Which didn't really come. There wasn't any really game-changing safety cars, which I was kind of expecting from Monza.
Well, there was, but just game.
It didn't change anything.
It didn't change it.
And there wasn't any surprises. So what I would say is, if this race finished regularly, I would kind of be like, oh, okay, this was fair enough. But that finish today sucked all of my enjoyment out of the race. I didn't understand what was happening at points, and I just think that I don't understand some of the decisions they make, and today was one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. I completely agree. I'm going to have to level with the backmarkers audience here. I missed, so just a little kind of behind the scenes here. So before the races, Mike and I are watching and stuff, and I always have to take a few minutes toward the end of the race to come upstairs to get my setup going, kind of ready to record. And I may or may not have had a diaper to change as my pit stop as it was coming up. And when I come upstairs, I'm like, oh, there's 4 laps left. And I look, I'm like, there's a safety car. What happened? And quickly realized, oh, nothing happened because the end of the race is lame and boring now. And I'm glad I changed the diaper instead of changing my opinion of the race. I'm not sure if that works, but I'm just going to go with it. Look, it's tough because there's a real fundamental question when it comes to Formula One, and that what's the most important thing? Fairness and competition or entertainment for the spectacle of things, right? And I don't think that's an easy question to answer because this whole series does not work without some emphasis on both sides, right? Like we saw what happened last year when Formula One, when the FIA pretty much put the spectacle of everything first and foremost, right? And I think there's a real argument to be made that they put the spectacle way above the sporting fairness of the way things should go, right? Today, I think it was almost the exact opposite in that they could have red flagged that race, right? But they did not. They chose not to. They chose to let it run out in the fairest way, which, look, credit to Max. Max did a great job. He absolutely was winning that race. And imagine how upset people would be if, just like last year, Max would have, come in on cold tires, whatever, and lost his clear lead because they artificially threw a red flag to make sure that we had racing laps, right? So for me, this is a tough one because I don't think there's a super clear answer here.
There isn't. This is what I'm saying of I feel like they gotta... I'm not saying don't do it this way, but stick to this, right?
Yes. Consistency. Pick one and be consistent, right? And I know that the FIA have stated in the past, and I think even so for this year, that they do want to, if at all possible, finish a race under the green flag, right? Even if it's a one lap. Everyone has come to see a race. People paid a lot of money to show up in the stands. We all at home have, woken up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever to watch it if you're on the West Coast. It's one of those things where if they can do it, they should do it. But I kind of feel like for this scenario, the finishing order was what it should have been, realistically. Yes, it is unfortunate the way things happened. I think if they would have thrown a red flag, the FIA would have gotten under more flack than they are for now. I do think they slightly made the right call.
Yeah, there's no flack like Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, because this is understandable, right?
It feels like, hey, you're just messing around with rules here to do what. This way, it's just like what we're saying today is it was just a bit of a wet blanket at the end of the episode. At the end, it was a bit at the end of the race, and it was kind of just like. This ultimately left me feeling a little bit underwhelmed, but I think maybe underwhelmed is a better feeling than I think they fixed the race.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
It's like you had a sniff of an exciting finish and then you didn't get it versus this was robbed. It's unacceptable. Man, it's tough. It's just like one of those things where, and I know
But I
Mike
do
in the
feel
chat.
like there could be a new rule to kind of, if you're in the last 10% of the race, any laps on the safety car get added to the total. But I know that's complicated because of fuel, right?
Yes.
So like, these are all the issues, right? Like, what were they supposed to have done? You either stop or it's really complicated. There isn't a good way to handle this, I don't think.
Yeah,
they probably did the best they could, but I'm just saying from an entertainment perspective, it kind of sucks some of the fun out of it because you see something like, oh, Ricardo's engine shut down. Here we go. It's like, no.
Nope. So the chat actually has a bunch of good points. So Mike actually has a terrific one, which just is that why didn't they have the crane closer or ready? Which, I mean, look, obviously it's difficult, especially certain tracks have very limited sort of accessibility and whatnot. So I understand they can't have a crane in every square inch of the track that a driver could stop. But also Tony has a terrific point. This is why NASCAR went to the whole green, white, checkered thing. Mike, do you follow NASCAR like at all? Okay, so now I'm going to say this from someone who used to watch NASCAR a lot, have not watched it a lot recently, but the races that I have sort of tuned in on a little bit here and there, NASCAR, I think, they're I think the poster child for really putting the entertainment and the spectacle first, right? They split the races up into different phases. They, I know in IndyCar, they force like safety cars or something. I don't watch IndyCar as much, but for NASCAR, the way I understand it, and again, please chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it is that when something like this happens, they do the green flag, then the white flag, then the checker. So at least you get a couple of racing laps so that there's not a boring end to the race. Now, I'm sure there's, various different reasons why that may or may not happen, if whatever the case is. But still, like, there's a clear emphasis on trying to put the entertainment first. But I would also argue that if you try to watch a modern NASCAR race without the context, it's very complicated. I mean, they have like the chase where they like reset the points at a certain point. They do a lot of things to make the spectacle of it really interesting, to avoid things like Formula One where, there's a driver 30 seconds ahead, 100 points in the championship, which is admirable, but also it does cheapen the racing to me a little bit when you know that you're really trying to fight for that 20-second, gap here or there, whatever the case is. IndyCar has caution sessions, but they make sure if there's a caution close to the race end. So, like,
I just think ultimately as well, though, right? Like, I think that's what Michael's getting to. That situation of the cars driving past the crane as the car, that was really dangerous. Like, at one point, they just lifted the car off the ground, and the car started kind of swinging a little bit. Like, I don't think that was good. Like, they should not have been driving past. Like, what would be the harm in this scenario of them taking the cars around to the starting grid and just stopping? Like, why did they have to keep driving?
I mean, that's a red flag, right? I mean, that's the definition of a red flag. Go into the pits, everyone stop, change your tires, do
but
whatever
just in general, like with a safety car, like what is I guess so, because you don't want to do a full start again, is that it? But you could stop them and roll them out again, right? Like I don't understand, I think fundamentally, like why do we need to keep racking up the laps?
Well, the idea is the race should always continue if at all possible, right? I mean,
right.
That's why there's a virtual safety car. That's why there's a regular safety car. And the red flag traditionally is only for like some crazy dangerous condition, right? Whether it's, a torrential downpour or, someone has destroyed a barrier.
An accident so bad. Like sometimes
exactly.
That,
right. Like, yeah, like if there's some huge accident, it's going to take the marshals, they have to all walk on track or something. But generally speaking, the red flag has not, generally speaking, I feel like I have to be very general because I know there's been some specific opportunities, but usually the red flag is only for real serious safety issues. And for this, they could get the car off track without stopping the race, right? So the only reason to throw that red flag is to make the spectacle more exciting and to sort of bunch the pack up and everything. But it was only, 3 or 4 laps where they did not have like an enormous amount of time to sort this out, especially if you think that, maybe they could get the car off the track. And it's a tough situation, right? But I do think it's a little bit of a red herring just in the fact that, like, yes, this could have spiced up the race. I don't think it would have changed the result massively. don't really think so. And also, Max totally deserved this win, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
yes, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
seeing Pierre win and seeing Daniel win, like Monza has this like, oh, anything could happen. But like, was it really going to happen today? I don't know.
I do struggle with the deserved part because this happens all the time, right? Like,
True.
This could have happened 4 or 5 laps earlier, and Max could have lost the win. But that doesn't mean that he should then have the win given to him. Like, just because we were 3 laps away from the end doesn't necessarily change the quote-unquote deservedness of the first place, right?
Yeah, but the difference is that's the way that the luck went, right? I mean, racing is a huge amount of luck, right? It's just
yeah. I'm not arguing that. It's just like the idea of like, oh, this is definitely the way it happened because Max did so well. It's like, well, no, but it doesn't work that way because this stuff happens all the time, right?
Yep.
Like someone did so well and they span out. Well, like, I think back to Russia, right? Lando did so well, but just didn't put the wet tires on, right? Well, I'm sorry, like that was very unfortunate for you, right? Anyway,
it's tough, but regardless,
I think there's nothing else to talk about. I feel like with the way it ended, this is what it is.
Absolutely. There were a couple of other things I think that are worth talking about. Maybe not quite as exciting. I think Checo did a good job, generally speaking. I mean, he took a very early pit stop. His brake was on fire, but he definitely made up some serious ground, especially in that sort of second stint where he did 40 laps on a set of hards. That was exciting. It was good to see him do pretty well, although P6 is probably not what he had really hoped for. I don't know. What were some of the things that jumped out to you? I mean, Carlos definitely sliced through the field, I think, better than any else.
I enjoyed Carlos's race.
Yeah.
He was overtaking someone on that first corner every lap, like one after another. Like Carlos had a real good race. I kind of honestly felt bad for him that they ended up in 4th, right? Like I think he put in just a mammoth effort today. I thought it was really great from him.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nick de Vries, right? We got to
talk
about that.
We got to talk about Nick. But before we move on to Nick, can I just give a shout out to Lewis? That one move on, was it Pierre? He passed 2 cars in 5 seconds.
I think it was Pierre and maybe Lando.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever happened, someone came in from the pits. I don't remember exactly what it was. All I remember was that Lewis pulled off some crazy move and just drove around everyone. I'm like, man, he made everyone look like they were just absolute amateurs. That was great to see.
It's like they said on commentary that he might be the oldest, or the second oldest on the track right now, but he makes them look like they're sleeping. That's kind of, it's just you would think oh, he's a sleepy old man, but no, he's wily. And it is wild to think, right, of the age thing with Lewis now. I don't think he's second oldest, but he's up there, right? But it's just it's just really interesting. Second most experienced, maybe more than anyway.
Actually, no, I think he is the second oldest. Who else would be older than Lewis on the grid? Obviously,
Seb?
Fernando. No, I think Lewis is older than Seb. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think Lewis is legitimately, yeah. So, yeah, there's I think a couple of highlights of the race, but I do think, generally speaking, the theme was obviously Max was crazy fast. What? Max Verstappen is a really fast race car driver? I mean, look, yes, I think there's always that argument that, you can red flag the race or whatever the case is. But once you kind of look at the race as a whole, you look at how dominant Max really was. I mean, think about Ferrari. Ferrari were throwing everything. I think this is one of those rare opportunities where even though there's tons of radio chatter and even the commentators are talking why Ferrari just constantly asking the drivers what to do, which doesn't sort of exude a lot of confidence. But Ferrari, I think, did legitimately try basically everything and nothing could touch him.
I have no complaints about Ferrari's race. I think they put in a good race. By the way, I love the yellow. The yellow's fixed the car, in my opinion.
I like the car. I don't like the yellow uniforms. I feel like it looks like they work at McDonald's.
The yellow, they're like minions.
Yeah, minions.
It's like minions all coming out and changing the tires.
Oof,
it's very funny to me. I enjoyed the yellow in the car. I do think, by the way, shape-wise, Ferrari had the best looking car. I still don't think the color's right for me, but the actual look of their car is so beautiful. The way it dips in the middle, it's you could take a bath in that car, right? In one of those wings, it's so deep. But I have no complaints with their race today.
They're just too slow.
I think they did. Yeah, I don't think it was honestly. I don't think they really could have done anything different. I don't think there was another outcome for them, barring Max having an issue. They seem to kind of get it all as good as they could today. I think all things considered, for Carlos's penalty, like he did a decent job, and I don't think it was anything other than like Lewis ended up just having a stronger. Oh no, because Lewis was behind him. Sorry, George. I mean, just had a stronger race, right?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't coming near him. It just ended up being just about right, I think, for Ferrari today.
I think, honestly, the top, 4 or 5 positions are all just about right. I mean, it should say something when Leclerc starts P1, Max starts P7, and Leclerc was the clear underdog in the race and ended up, before the safety car, 15, 17 seconds behind or whatever it was. I mean, it just shows the pace of Max Verstappen on that Ferrari is ridiculous. But also, it shows that, look, George did a terrific job. He started P2, which obviously was not really... Yeah, that was not really sustainable, but, he did a terrific job. I mean, everyone just got really spread out,
right? It was very competitive today. George was very competitive. It didn't look like he was holding anyone up. It didn't look like he was like bait for anyone, He was very competitive against Carlos. Like Carlos wasn't going to catch him.
Mr. Consistency.
And George was putting in Leclerc like speeds at some points. Like I personally obviously very happy with George's result again, and I think that he is just once again proving he has an immense amount of talent. And
absolutely,
I can't wait to see him at full speed, whenever that might be.
All right, Mike, we gotta prepare ourselves to talk about a certain Nick De Vries. So, for context, if you perhaps missed the race or missed really the yesterday's sort of drama, Alex Albon, our good buddy, future friend of the podcast, I'm sure, had a little issue called appendicitis.
Yep.
Not good.
And he's having the appendix out too. Like,
yeah.
It's like bad time appendicitis. Did you see his tweet?
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to be lighter for the next race. It's like, man, I love that guy. Love that guy. It's great for him, actually, that we got a couple of weeks off. Yeah. So he'll be able to fully recover, right? Because otherwise he would be out for multiple races. But Nick De Vries, who is in the Mercedes driver program, is a previous
Formula E world champion.
Formula E, that's it. It's not, didn't call it FE, right? It's Formula E. He was the Formula E champion.
You can call it FE, yeah.
Did he race in F3 and F2?
He did, and I believe he was champion in F2 in 2019?
Right.
2018 or 2018. I think it was 2019. So clearly a guy with a terrific CV, and it was very sort of convenient. So Nick De Vries is the Mercedes reserve driver, but Mercedes, because they have power units for half the field almost, they loan him out essentially, right? So he did the FP1 session for Aston Martin because all the teams have to run, I think, 2 FP1 sessions with young drivers throughout the year. So Aston Martin just threw him in the car, to sort of check that box, because I don't think they would ever really run him. But it was very convenient because he got to get some running in the Aston Martin on Friday. Saturday morning, gets the call, hey, Alex Albon's sick. Can you go drive the Williams in an hour? And he did a terrific job. I mean, I watched a little bit of FP3. He was immediately super ballsy, super aggressive, putting in some good times.
He got into Q2, right?
He got into Q2 above Latifi, the guy who's been driving this car for 2.5 years. It was actually kind of sad, and we should talk about Latifi, but it was there was an interview where Latifi got out qualified, obviously, by De Vries, and they're like, "Oh, what does it feel like to be out qualified by a guy who's never driven a car before?" And he goes, "Not great." It's just like, oh my god, dude. Look, I am not Latifi's biggest fan. I am not a Go-Tifier, but look, man, you gotta feel for him. That's embarrassing. That's just so embarrassing. Obviously he has no shot at the seat for next year, right? I don't think he had one before, but this is definitely the nail in the coffin. But man, you don't have to rag on the guy. He's trying his best out there.
Come on. What would you ask him, right? What are you gonna ask him? That's
money back guarantee.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Look, De Vries put in just a very, very solid performance. He's currently he's got points, right? He's got 1 point. I think there's some conversation. I think as we're recording, he's at the stewards. I'm seeing the chat saying.
No, he's fine.
He had some track limit concerns, I think, but who knows?
No, I actually think he's fine.
He put in a great performance. Just incredibly solid performance for being ninth on his first time in an F1 car. With no, again, like, like we say this, he's not even caught like a rookie because he hasn't had any testing. Well, to the level that, say, a rookie would have, right? He's driven some laps and, but like, yeah, I just think it's very impressive. It's very impressive. I'm very intrigued by the guy.
And of course, he got a little lucky, with Danny Rick falling out, which sort of promoted him up. But he was still on pace for at least 1 point coming in 10th. So he ended up being qualified as 9th. And if the stewards try to take away his points, I am going to personally be upset.
No way it's going to happen. FIA, Austin will be upset at you.
I will file a formal complaint. I'm now going to stand Nick DeVries because that was a terrific race. But yeah,
obviously he's driver of the day for us, right? Like, no doubt.
Driver of the day. I would give him back marker of the day. Why not?
Oh, I mean, he is both. He was a back marker. Yeah. So that's good. Done. Yeah, it was great. Also, he just looked good. Just looked good in the car. Some good moves, good overtakes. He was doing some good defending. Like, he looked very at home in it. I would say there's a very good chance he'll be in the Williams seat.
I could not agree more. I mean, it would be wild for them not to want to hire him after that. I mean, what kind of... Well, unless like Danny Rick, but as, again, we were talking about a little bit before the show, Danny Rick may or may not have gotten caught on a hot mic basically saying that he might be taking off next year. A little hard to make out, but like, yeah.
But like this is what we've been talking about, right? Like, would Williams prefer a Mercedes driver or a driver of their own choosing, like that they can actually benefit from in the long term? I don't know, right? Like,
also, does Danny Rick really want to go to Williams? Like, what, he's going to race for Williams for 2 years and then retire? Like, I think that's it. I think Danny Rick's thought here is that he's still, especially if he had a bad couple years, but maybe he goes off, takes a year off, gets right with himself mentally, and then he's a little bit more of a tantalizing prospect, especially if a few more seats open up in 2024. But regardless, Nick DeVries, terrific.
Real solid.
Absolutely terrific.
Real solid.
Mike, who is your underperformer of the race?
I'm not really sure. I think I have a bit of a question around Sergio right now.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing good, but the delta between him and Max is really large.
Yeah, too big.
And kind of like big. In a way that you were hinting at earlier, seems larger than Lewis and Valtteri was.
Yep.
And this wasn't the case earlier in the season. And of course, we can't forget, right, that I think he's second in the drivers right now. No, he's dropped down to third.
But he's right up in there.
He's right up there. Yeah, but 7 points ahead of George. He's not that up there.
Yeah.
Right, so like that George is in sniffing distance of third place now, which is very interesting in the standings. But yeah, he did fine today. But this is the thing that I'm like, he's having a good season. He's having a very good season. 210 points, third in the championship. That's a good season. But Max is just having an ungodly season. So this is where I'm like, I don't understand what's, again, obviously Max is the best driver on the field right now, right? We can see that.
Yeah.
But it's a big difference between the two of them, where ostensibly it should be driving the same cars. So there are just questions, but not as many questions as have been with previous full partners.
Yeah, by a little bit, but it's like one of those things where you look at that Red Bull in Max Verstappen's hands. I don't think if he would have started, he could have started from the pit lane, and I still think he could have won that race, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's ridiculous. Whereas Checo obviously had some problems. He did have his brakes catch on fire, to probably no fault of his own, right? But like, it's just, I don't know that anyone else could do something better. And realistically, Red Bull need a team designed around, or they have a team really that's designed around Max, right? And Checo is there to be his rear gunner, to rack up some points for the team, and pick up a win when Max sleeps in and forgets to show up for the race or something, right? Like, I think that's sort of the extent of it, which is kind of sad. I don't know if I could quite give him underperformer of the race, but I can't argue with it. I cannot argue with it. My underperformer of the race, though, is Ferrari. And it's also got a question mark because, like, they didn't actively do something wrong. But what has happened this year with Ferrari kind of having the fastest car at the beginning, and then it's like they've basically not developed. They have not gotten quicker. They've just kind of had the same car the whole year. Obviously, I know that's not the case, right? They've also had plenty of new parts, but like they have not improved the performance of the car anywhere near as quickly as Red Bull has, right? And I think there's really something to be said about that of like Red Bull I don't think they were the fastest at the beginning of the year, right? I mean, clearly Charles had like a 40 or 50 point lead at one point. It was something huge, right? Red Bull's cars were exploding. They weren't finishing races. Leclerc was absolutely dominating. I mean, look, as someone in the chat pointed out earlier, one of our early episodes this season was like, oh, are Ferrari unstoppable? Boy, that didn't age well, did it? Like, it's tough. And obviously Ferrari is a team that has many problems, both internal and external. But it's like something they've got to be looking at themselves. Like, this is our chance, right? This was our chance this year. Mercedes fell out of it. Red Bull did well, but, Ferrari right up there. Why have they not developed the car more? Why have they fallen so far behind? Like, it's just, that's not a normal thing. Well, at least, unfortunately, it's kind of normal for Ferrari, but it shouldn't be like that, right? Like, they should not have fallen off so hard to the point where they literally are starting first at their home track. Max is starting in 7th, and it wasn't even a close fight. Like, that just does not ring right to me. There's something that's really, really wrong there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very different feeling, right? Because this was it, right? This is what we said it before. I think we said it basically every episode for the last 3 or 4. Ferrari seemed unstoppable. They had just the right mixture, but they have not come on in the same way that the other teams have.
Yes. Yeah. And like as Mike and a bunch of people
teams around them seem to be making leaps, and Ferrari feel like they're kind of holding on most of the time.
Yeah.
Even though they're still putting in good performances, their good performances are not improving. They're still doing like about as good, it feels like, as they were at the start. And yeah. But they're not Aston Martin, right? Like Aston Martin to double DNF today. Like,
oof. Fernando as well was having an okay race at least, and clearly that didn't work out. But yeah, also shout out to Danny Rick. He was on for some pretty decent points through no fault of his own. He went kablooey. I don't know. It's just a little tough. It's just a little tough for me to wrap my head around exactly why Red Bull are so fast. Man. What was your favorite moment of the race? Because honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I guess no. I do have it. I do have mine.
Okay. I enjoyed Lewis's charge.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Because at first, for the first maybe 10 laps, I was like, Lewis, what are you doing? I know he had a bit of a dust up, I think, with Valtteri at the beginning, but it felt like he wasn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seemed like all of a sudden he just came alive. And charged up the field and had a very solid race, and I think turned out a real kind of good performance considering where he started, right, which is basically the back. So I think that was very, it was good to watch him come up there and get a top 5. Like, I think that was real solid in the end.
Yeah. No, you know what? As soon as those words came out of my mouth, I remembered Lewis's amazing overtake. I'm like, that was it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that overtake. But like then he gave me what I hoped he was going to give me today, but it took him a while to get started.
Well, you know what? It's a long. Well, actually, I was about to say it's a long race. I think actually Monza might be the shortest amount of time.
It's fast, right?
It's fast because I think they're burning so much fuel. I think that's really the thing. They're at full throttle, like 80% or whatever. So I was like, man, we're done with this race really quick. Even with the safety cars, it still felt like it was a quick race. But man. Mike, are you ready for Singapore?
Next.
Are you ready to wake up at what time is Singapore going to be for you? Oh, I actually don't even know for me. That's going to be a wacky race because that's
for you, it's 5 a.m.
Oh, so like normal.
For me, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Singapore's fine. It's then as we move on from there, it starts to get weird, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Japan is 6 o'clock in the morning for me. 10 o'clock at night for you. The day before I enjoy those ones. They're really weird. We had one of those. It's Australia, right? Australia was like that too. Yeah. That's gonna be funny.
I'm very excited.
I will say I got the time wrong today because in Memphis I woke up at 6 in the morning for the race to begin. I didn't need to do that. It started at 8. I don't know what. I think I just got it in my head your time and then just moved with it from there.
I'm glad, Mike, that you've absorbed West Coast time and sort of made it internal for you. Very excited though about Singapore. I know Singapore doesn't have the greatest reputation for being a really competitive race, but it is a night race. It is a street race. It is a fast race. And those walls, man, they get a little smaller every year.
I hate driving Singapore in F122.
It's one of the motorsport having a rough time.
They don't like Singapore. It is a race that I can complete, unlike Monaco. I still can't. I can't do it. I don't know why. I just can't do it. Singapore I can do. I think for me, this is the first time I've seen the Singapore Grand Prix.
Oh, interesting.
Because they didn't do it in 2020 and 2021.
Yes, the last Singapore Grand Prix was 2019.
Yes,
right.
So I have not seen a Singapore. It's the same. It's like I hadn't seen an Australian Grand Prix until this season.
Japanese Grand Prix as well, huh?
Yeah, Japanese I haven't seen. So there's a bunch of races on the calendar that are new to me this year, which I'm excited to see. Just that would be fun for me just to see how they look, right? Yeah. So I haven't had a Japanese Grand Prix, and then I think that's it after that because I've seen a Mexican and I've seen.
Mike, have you seen a Las Vegas Grand Prix yet?
Not yet, baby. I think a year to go for that. It's like kind of it's next year, right?
It's next year, next November, I think. Yeah. So if anyone wants to find Mike and I will be in the casino, making it rain on Las Vegas Grand Prix night, or at home watching quietly and then probably going to sleep after. One of the two. You never know.
It's one or the other. We'll see how it ends up going. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Backmarkers. You can find us on Twitter. We're at BackmarkersLive. We're backmarkers.live for our video, backmarkers.fm for the audio. Please don't forget to tune in to the podcast-a-thon for St. Jude on September 16th from 12 to 8 p.m. US Eastern Time at twitch.tv/RelayFM. You can find out more and donate to the life-saving mission of St. Jude at stjude.org/relay. And we'll be back next time. Say goodbye, Austin Evans.
Until the next time that Mike lets me behind the wheel of OBS, we'll see you then.
Can stop audio.
Woo!
Yeah, you're in the struggle bus. What are you?
Can I just say a deep and sincere thank you to everyone in the chat. At one point, I was adjusting Mike's levels, and I was trying to put -9. I put +9. So it got loud for a second. Yeah, I was.
There were times where I'm talking and Austin is either giggling or like furiously doing things, and I'm like, I'll just keep going.
Mike, you are an amazing individual for padding it. So here's the thing, everyone. So we tested this before. So after last week's race, because we knew that Mike was going to be, because just for some behind the scenes stuff, Mike is usually the one who's running the actual stream, right? So my audio, my video being fed to Mike, it's running through his computer and then being streamed out. But because Mike is in Memphis, he's not exactly going to take his whole setup. So I'm like, you know what?
I'm on hotel Wi-Fi. There was no way I was streaming the entire show to YouTube. That wasn't going to happen.
Exactly. So I'm like, look, I can do it. Like, I've got my system here. OBS just got a sweet new update for M1 Max. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to give this a try. And I think generally speaking, things went fairly well. But we tested the audio. I'm like, I'm feeling great. And as soon as we started, I was like, oh my God, it's too quiet. It's too loud. I was like frantically like, Mike, please. I'm adjusting down. I'm adjusting up. I'm adjusting down. And then, yeah.
That's the thing, like, that I was saying with this stuff. It's really, really hard to anticipate levels.
Yeah.
Like if you're setting up a brand new OBS stream, there will be some level of audio level adjustment needed because it's really difficult to do.
And also we did when we did our initial test last week, that was with you with your existing setup, not with your new one, and definitely didn't think about changing it for that. So
yeah, but
shout out.
Still though, you it wouldn't have. I don't think you would have gotten it right. Like, and it's nothing on you. It's just like it's really hard to anticipate how the levels will sound to people.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the issue of like it can look good to you, but people I still find like unless it's something you've got set up from ages before, can still just be an issue.
Yeah. So thank you to Mike and to everyone for the kind patience as we worked through some stuff, and I look forward to Mike running the stream next time. So
yeah, I bet.
Also, shout out to everyone in the chat. There's definitely a few moments where you guys were hopping in and it was super helpful, especially with like the NASCAR stuff. I knew like if someone mentioned NASCAR, I'm like, oh, like I know vaguely how this works, but I wasn't super clear on exactly how the rules and everything go. But Mike, I am happy, but also I'm ready for a break. We had a triple header. It's time to take a nap. It's time to
it's
recharge
like 2
our
weeks,
batteries.
right? Two weekends, no racing, and then we're back. It's actually a pretty long break straight after the summer break, right? It's like a funny one to take.
Yeah. So it's Singapore, and then I think the Japanese Grand Prix is right after that, right? The week after?
Yep.
I should actually pull up my calendar here. But yeah, it's going to get very,
very
spicy.
All the way into October now with Singapore Grand Prix, then Japanese Grand Prix, then a 1 week break, and then it's the Austin Grand Prix, then Mexico. Then we've got another 1 week break, and then it's Sao Paulo, then a week, then Yas Marina in the Abu Dhabi. That's it, right? That's the last one, Yas Marina.
I think so. Yeah.
Abu Dhabi's the season closer on 20th of November.
We are coming up on we're coming up on the end of the season very quickly.
Yeah.
Do you have any last minute
it's going to be over before you know it, man.
I know. Do you have any last minute predictions for stuff that's going to happen this year? Because I'm looking at what we made at the beginning of the year. And,
we shouldn't talk about those yet. I don't even like to think about it.
I'm just reminding myself.
Hmm.
You know, yeah. Just say it. Maybe I made a couple right, a couple wrong. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. All right, Mike.
I still think we could have a Mercedes win. I still think it could happen, just out of like a nice combination of strategy and luck.
I think that if Max sleeps in, that
it needs Max to DNF.
Yes,
right? That's step one in this plan. Yep. You know, in L plan, it needs Max to DNF.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's certainly possible, but also now that Red Bull have a fresh supply of like engines and stuff to pull from, I think the DNF is going to have to come from like, you know, an actual accident.
An accident. Yeah. But that also happens a lot, you know?
It does. So, it does. But also Max
there's no reason to assume that it wouldn't.
He's driving so smartly, though. I think that's the problem. Like, it's not the old Max where he's just going crazy. No,
you're right.
He's taking aggressive moves, right? Like, I think his move on, was it George, was really aggressive, but also very expertly timed, and he made it look easy, even though he went for a pretty solid dive bomb. And I think part of it is because everyone knows Max is so much faster that no one's really fighting him. And I think he's relaxed and he knows that people aren't going to fight him, so it's just a very easy kind of thing for him.
For you to have an accident with someone, you've actually got to have people to get close to you. That's
thing.
Like if no one can get close to you, no one can hit you.
Yeah.
That's Max's like, you know, like the guy tapping his head meme. Like can't have a crash if no one can get near you.
Oh, Mike. And just a little extra thing for the cool down room. So, you know, I was kind of talking about, I was hyping something up last week. Well, the thing I got, oh no, did I just lose Mike? Oh no, that's very disappointing. Okay, well, I guess
I'm back. Discord crashed. I don't know what happened.
We now have two of me mirrored on the stream. There we go.
Wait, there we go. Should be fixed now. I don't know what happened. I clicked the Discord icon and the entire app refreshed.
So the thing is, when you disappeared, my window just got duplicated, so it was two of me looking at each other. So I just thought you didn't want to hear my story, Mike. But my exciting thing that is vaguely F1 related, although not really, will have to wait until after the Singapore Grand Prix. It was postponed due to some conditions outside of my control, but I am still very excited, and I will share the whole story with Mike and the entire crew. But yeah, very exciting. Also,
I'm looking forward to that.
I don't know if Mike, part of the reason I was laughing so much, everyone in the chat was speculating during the ad breaks that I'm using an iPhone 14. I can confirm that this is an iPhone 13. So I would never.
Is that what was going on? Yeah, there was a lot of like question. People were freaking out. Like I try not to look, right? Sometimes I keep my eye on it because it's like, did something bad happen? Like, did I ruin something? You know, like. But it was throwing me off because everyone was like saying that I didn't know what was happening, man.
No, it was because I think when I lifted my phone up to do the timer, someone looked at it and was like, "Is that a dynamic island?" And then everyone just got super excited. But no, iPhone 13.
You order one? You must have, right?
I did. Yes,
What'd
I got a black 256 14 Pro regular. That is what that's what I got coming on Friday, and of course I would never have a phone any earlier than the on sale date. So the fact that there's wild speculation in the chat trying to get me in trouble, completely unfounded.
And with that, goodbye everybody. Signing off from Memphis.
Yes, thank you everyone. We will see you in a couple weeks in the Singapore Grand Prix, and I will never